Or do you want us to call you Mad Dog?
I'm Mad Dog, yeah.
All right, Mad Dog. Thanks for joining us.
Go on, Dave, Karl.
Th-
I
Thank
tell you,
you.
Karl, if I hadn't heard of Karl Jobst before, as I claimed in my video, I've heard of you now. I've got a few in my mailbox, so.
You've got a few what?
Got a few love letters from some of your fans in my mailbox.
Yeah,
so
I apologize about that.
Yeah, I mean, he did actually say in his video not to contact you and not to be an asshole, but as we know, people are going to be assholes.
Oh, yeah.
Dan, shut the fuck up, dude. I'm serious. That's like the 15th time you said that.
Man, I'm pissed that I work on the PC, man. Like, I'm a computer guy. I don't use the phone.
Well, that makes one of us. We tried to use a computer. We tried to do YouTube. We tried to do Google Meeting. This is what we get. Sorry.
All right, it's all good. But yeah, I just wanted to say that, Karl, I don't have any beef with you for, making that video. Certainly it was fair game, and you crushed it for sure. For sure. I stand by a lot of the points that I was making and a lot of the sentiment in my video. I'm totally open to, I'm open to the thought that I misrepresented your intent into making that video, like 100%, totally open. And just the same, you did return the favor in spades, let's say.
Sure.
And intent was not to, fool people into my pump and dump scheme, which, to be frank, I've never sold a game in my entire life. So,
well, yeah. I can call you. I don't believe that you are that. If I thought that you were a speculator, I would have said it.
Like it was implied, but it's all good, man. I mean,
was it implied?
I would.
I'm a bit more nuanced than most people. I think that from the video, obviously you care. Well, my impression is you care a lot about the value. But it's one thing to care about the value, and it's another thing to actually be buying and selling. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to. For my perception of you is someone who has been collecting for a long time, and also really wants the value of your games to be worth a lot.
Yep, that makes sense, though.
That doesn't mean you're a speculator, or that doesn't mean you're pumping and dumping like yourself.
Right.
Yeah. If that makes sense.
I mean, am I the only one who actually enjoyed both videos on some level? Like, I mean, I would have liked a little less back and forth in both cases, but like, I enjoyed both of your sentiments.
Yeah. No, I hear you. And
yeah,
sorry.
I was going to say, I just want to pick out what I agree with. I kind of, I shouldn't have even talked about, I shouldn't have even rebutted the pandemic stuff. Because truthfully, that's over my head. So I probably shouldn't have even mentioned that. It's not a big deal, but it is what it is. Yeah, it's a because I think you love games.
He definitely loves games. I know that for a fact.
It's a problem. Okay, so I was saying to this to Dave earlier. It's totally fine if you want to talk about how valuable games are, and it's great that games are becoming so valuable and stuff like that. Totally your choice. But the public reaction to that is going to be negative. Like almost always, in my opinion. And I think it depends what your audience you want to appeal to, I guess. So I think it's something to think about. For me, I think, and the whole idea of trying to distinguish between sealed collectors and not sealed collectors, I don't think that's going to work out positively, because I think it's creating more division. Where I think the message would be like, no, we are collectors too, and this is why. If that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, I guess the sealed community of people that first of all have the money to buy sealed games, and then second of all that are actually in the market to buy them.
It's so small.
such a niche market that, you know, I personally, for my YouTube channel, it was only for the Instagram community of video game, you know, collectors. It was not meant for you know, you have 700,000 followers. Not even 1% of that is going to be collecting games, right? So, you know, that's why I set my account to private. Like, I have no interest in those, you know, in people that, anyways, that's all good.
No, I understand that. I would probably do the same thing.
Yeah.
I totally understand that. But what's your thoughts though on what I said about
With the whole
trying to create this distinction between sealed collectors and not?
Well, so
I don't think that's, again, I don't think that's necessarily a good strategy.
My whole point with Pat Contri, my whole, and you know, you're, by the way, where you basically rolled it back one sentence and it was like, holy crap, this guy is misleading, blah, blah, blah. I didn't even know about that sentence until you pointed it out. So
Why did you pull that clip from somewhere else or what?
So I was really more into the editing of this video in a humorous way than, you know, spending too much time watching Pat's videos. So for me, I spent more time photoshopping Michael Jordan's jersey on that guy at the barbecue than I did video. So to be frank, when you rolled that, you know, yeah, it makes it look like I'm misleading. But anyways,
you didn't expect it to get the views that it did, I guess.
No, it had 2,000 views. I didn't think it'd be putting.
That's a lot, though. I mean, it's more than my videos get. So,
but you know, I still stand by my point that you know, you referenced Pat as your expert in that video for sealed video games, and just my whole point behind that is, you know, at one point, let's say in the 1960s, there were guys that owned an Action Comics 1, and they were upset when it, you know, hit $100. I'm saying to interview that person when a $3.5 million sale happens, to interview the guy that was upset when they were worth $100. Yes, he's a collector just the same, but he's the wrong guy to get advice on a $3.5 million market. It was my point, you know. And
well,
so,
I agree with that.
guys in the room, stop fighting, please.
Again, if you actually bring forward the points like that in that kind of way, we'll probably agree. It's really the when I start fighting back is just even just doing it in a way that's kind of either not, it's just bad faith kind of arguments. For example, like Pat is very anti-seal. And he's way more well, I'm not anti-seal at all.
Which is weird, but let's touch on real quick though. Isn't it weird that he's anti-seal? Like, why can't he just leave it alone? Why does he have to be against it?
I don't know, but I've tried to say to him, you can collect sealed games, and just because you think sealed games are cool. And why I like sealed games, I just think sealed games are cool. And he was insinuating that no, it's more to do with money and stuff like that. Which I mean, so I'm just saying
he's got high-end items. He told me he's got like a sealed gyromite somewhere. Like, you know, I talked to the guy. He's got sealed stuff, but why does he have to be against it? You know, and he wasn't. He's obviously for it enough that he hasn't sold that stuff. So I'm like, you know, is this more for your show? And if it is, that's fine too. But like, just don't. But why is he against it?
No, he on his podcast or whatever, he portrays himself accurately.
Yeah.
Because I've spoken to him privately, and I know how he feels privately. Yeah, if he was like just putting on an act in his show, then he would tell me, you know, I'm not really against seal. Because I wanted him to come on I wanted to settle this, you know, and I said to him, hey, I'll put you in my new video, and I'm like, just say that you don't have a problem with sealed games.
Right.
That's like a reasonable stance, right? To be like, I don't. Yeah. I think speculation's bad, but I just, in principle, I don't have a problem. But even that seemed to be an issue. So yeah, putting on an act. I think that's what he really believes, you know, for good or
I'm
bad or
not
whatever.
saying he doesn't believe it on some level. But he's on the same. He does believe it. I've heard it. You know, I've talked to him directly. But on the same token, he's got high end valuables that like people. He said at one point. This was back in like 2020 or 1920. I think he told me he got offered $40-some thousand for one of his games, and he wouldn't sell it. And that you know, it's. If he doesn't like high end stuff, then he likes everything open, then open it. And yeah, I don't know. It seems to be contradiction to me.
I think he's just not as rich.
Maybe I don't know. It just seems like a contradiction. In any event, I don't see why he's got to be against sealed games. Like you can do your CIB stuff, you can do card only, you can do the entire NES library, but like, why do you have to be against somebody else doing something different?
Yeah, I don't know.
So.
And trust me, I've tried. I wanted to get that out of him, but I couldn't. So
Yeah, no, it's not going to happen.
It's, but yeah, like Pat and I disagree on certain things. But I agree that he's not he's not, like, in hindsight, it's kind of, it muddies the water a little bit. Like, I agree with what you're saying about Pat not being the right person to speak for sealed collecting and stuff like that. Totally understand that. Right. And I wasn't privy to that when I made the video. Okay. Right. And so now I can say, yeah, totally. That's why I want to clarify that, you know, it's not all sealed collectors that are bad, and you know, it's just these specific companies or whatever.
Yeah. Not even the companies, specific people at the companies.
Yeah. And I don't want to see it, but again, I don't want to see the association with Pat as if like my video was based on, which I just made the video because I agreed with Pat. Case, like, you could, even if I didn't speak to Pat, the video essentially would be similar.
It's the same, yeah.
It didn't act on my perception of what was happening. It really was sort of based on my morals and like what I think grading companies should act like, or what I think should have happened.
Mm-hmm. I get that. I mean, I agree. He wasn't a vital point, but, you know, people do get hung up because they see him or they hear him, and, you know, he's at every show, and, you know, you can't not help but run into Pat everywhere you go, kind of. And, you know, that's fine. I like the fact that he brings people into gaming. I mean, it doesn't matter to me that they're not in my particular niche of the market. I'm happy. The more people that game, they're sharing in our passion. So my passion in terms of collecting is collecting the high end, but I don't care if someone wants to collect only cards. I think it's crazy to get cards graded personally. I wouldn't spend the money on it, but if you love it, I'm all for you getting your cards graded too. I don't think you're going to sell them for much, but if you want to do it and you love the way that they look, then I'm all for you spending the money on it. Just don't try to dump them.
I really want to stress something that I need to stress it immediately. It's the people like Dan and Minus Worlds, right? Because they disagreed with what I said in the video as far as, you know, it's all speculation and stuff like that, right? But they were like super nice and just said, hey, Karl, let's have a chat and discuss why I think you're, you know, where we disagree. And it's like those kind of people really swayed me more than anything. Yeah. Like, and I think that's why I want to stress, like, if the high end collectors anyway want to, it depends what their goal is, obviously. Because if they want to appeal to rich people, then the messaging is different than if they want to appeal to the general public. Sure. But it's, yeah, I do think that it's like, we need more. If I would have a think about you giving off more positive messaging rather than Karl's wrong, and, you know, these other people, like the 99% of collectors aren't collectors, or aren't sealed collectors, so they have no idea what they're talking about, and creating this division. So I think what I personally want to do in the future is just get rid of some of that. So explain to people and teach people that, like, for me, I think I'm going to be a good advocate. Where, like, last year, I said, when I went on Greg's interview, I said, I'm personally not a fan of grading, and I don't like having the numbers on the box and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But sorry, I'm a bit out of breath because I'm so tired.
No worries.
But yeah, I love grading now.
Yeah. It is arbitrary, but it helps us.
Yeah. I mean, in theory, I understand all that, but personally, I like it. That's the thing. Like, I realized for myself that you can like grading, you can like sealed collecting, literally just because you like it. It's just a preference.
You prefer?
It's beautiful. I mean, this was such a beautiful thing to come my way. I geek out about it every single time I hold it up.
Right. So I learned from my own experience that, because I did have a perception of grading, I did have a perception of these high-end sealed collectors that wasn't as bad as what the public go on about nowadays, but it was kind of similar.
Sure.
You know, I had certain, because all I was hearing was like, oh, this game's worth so much. This Mario game's worth $1 million.
Yeah.
You know, it's all you hear about. It's like all they talk about is how much.
But you're probably also frequenting certain forums that probably I wouldn't advise for newcomers, right?
Well, no, this is public.
No, I know,
like
but
the news is like game. When you read all the news articles about games selling for so much, and then all you hear about is the quotes about is how much these games are worth. Like, it's like all the messaging is about how much they're worth. It's like it's creating division. It's going to create division between the gamers and the rich collectors. So it just depends if they're fine with that, then whatever. But if they do want to bridge that gap, then there are ways to do that. Better ways.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think, Garth? Mad Dog.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a niche market. it's a niche.
It's just so small, right? We're just so tiny.
Well, now, but we're talking about, like, what do you want it to be in 5-10 years? Do you still want it to be niche, or do you have goals for it to be more mainstream?
Yeah, I think there's still a sentiment out there. I know Dave was saying otherwise, but I believe that there is a sentiment out there that it's still a scam. I do believe that.
Maybe.
That to kind of die away a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Wata's the company, for sure.
I mean, with the size of our market, though, I think the issue is that there isn't as much of an issue because 99 out of 100 people could think we're a scam, and if one person out of 100 comes and gives us another look, we're doing good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and again, like, I think Dave, you're also like we're kind of focused more on the high end of the market. We don't need 800,000 people to be interested at the low end of the market. Like, I guess we're in a different market. It's two different worlds.
So two uneducated buyers were what odds they'll brought up in the first place.
Sorry,
go ahead, Karl.
Do you mind if I call you Garth, or do you want me to call you Mad Dog?
Mad Dog's good.
Mad Dog. Okay. You're talking about, so really your focus is the market and the people entering the market, and don't really care about public perception.
I think he's saying he does care more about it, right?
Yeah,
he was saying, he said that it's just a different market and we don't need the 800,000 because we just.
No, he was saying that it's not a big market, right?
To be honest, I don't think a lot about it. I just buy what I love, like really, and I haven't put a lot of thought into how do we get tens of thousands of people into it. I feel that it's good enough to stand on its own, and it just organically happens. I think that just when you put uncertainty into the market, it disrupts it, I believe. But I think that they're good enough to stand on their own, and especially, I think that press releases are a positive thing, and I think just when your records get hit, that's what gets people's attention. It goes to the news, and then just more people gain awareness of it. I think markets have to grow organically like that. I don't know.
Well, I mean, what happened in 2019, I mean, I think is kind of the, kind of the question that, has been going around, right? That's why we're here. And I think, maybe it didn't grow entirely organically at the time.
That and that was a big thing that I disagree with Karl with your first video there is like I've been in the market since 2011. I was buying games for like Street Fighter 2. There was 36 quantity, $100 each. They all would have graded 9.8. I bought one copy, but I'm just saying I've been in the market for a very long time, and I'll tell you, I was buying hundreds of games, not speculative copies. Like I wasn't buying 5 graded copies. I was buying one copy for my own collection. But for 8 years before Wata came along, I was buying games and I didn't use VGA once. They were in their infancy or kind of when I first started. I had a few VGA games that I bought that were already graded. I did not personally grade a single game because I did not like their grading scale. And even in 2012, I knew that there were 2 catalysts that would set this market off. One, you had to have a good grading company come along that had a EGC style grade system. And then you needed heritage auctions because they are the only collectibles auctioneer. You needed heritage auctions to get involved, and that they hit the big time. And I knew that were literally the 2 catalysts. I knew that they were rare. I knew that they were awesome. That's it. So the thing is, when Wata came along, and when Heritage picked them up, boom, that was it. They didn't need to have any behind the scenes, I don't believe that they needed to shill bid or any of that crap. It was the catalyst in itself. And then the question is it ethical for one of the owners of Heritage to have a small stake in the company? I don't personally have an issue with that, to be honest. I mean,
Well, I don't have an issue with that. That's not my issue either.
Mm-hmm. So what is
the issue is being secretive about it and not letting people know.
Okay. I mean, so, okay, let's say he had a 10% stake in the company. And my point is this, just, you have to put yourself in their shoes. So let's just say you're in Jim Halpern's shoes, okay? You're a part owner in Heritage Auctions, okay? You see that sealed video games are going to be the next big thing, just like I saw, right? Some young guy, Dennis and Kenneth, create an unbelievable business concept. And it is like, just by seeing it, I could have been there. If they asked me for money, I would have said, here's my money. This is perfect. So, someone like Jim Halpern sees this beautiful grading system and he says, you know what? I was going to put these in my auction anyways. This is the perfect company. What do you need to do for me to get you off the ground so that we can start this going, because this is perfect? I'm saying that is exactly, in my opinion, what happened. Now, you could say, oh, no, he wanted to. I don't even understand what the problem is if he did own part of it, but I don't see where the evil intent is that, okay, now he's showing favoritism. Like one of your points was he's showing favoritism to Wata because he owns the company. First of all, sorry to be rapid fire here, but first of all, this minuscule investment in Wata to a guy of the wealth of Jim Halpern is so minuscule, it is peanuts. So
I don't think that's a relevant argument, though. I mean, it's still a big 10% is considered controlling stake in a lot of companies. I mean, you can't just say because he's rich it doesn't matter.
Okay, but I'm saying him showing favoritism over Wata in his auctions, I don't believe it was to increase his value of his small stake in Wata, which was maybe less than 1% of his wealth. I think it's because that makes sense. You know what I mean? If you look at the sealed VHS market right now, you can't have too many grading companies competing in the same auction house because it just dilutes the whole thing. You can't, there's no prices realized database. I mean,
Well, at the same time, though, he excluded VGA and all other companies that might have existed, and he did so without any kind of acknowledgement that he was a stakeholder.
I don't know. Anyways, I don't know how that affected anything.
Exclusivity, I think the exclusivity is one of the things that causes the problem, because if he was letting in other companies and other games, Raws, anything else, the only thing that we were allowed to submit to Heritage for the longest time was graded Wata games, not Raws, nothing else. And then once they sold, not a month after they sold, they said, we're going to start taking everything. Okay. Because it's more advantageous to them to take everything, right?
And it's like, the argument that you're making is For example, you could say like there are rules like regulations in certain industries to limit the ability of people to take advantage of things. You can't just say I'm going to disregard. Okay, I'm not saying there's regulations in collecting, but let's say the bond market. There is a lot of regulation. Moody's and all that kind of stuff have entire documents full of conflict of interest stuff, right? You can't live with someone who owns it. You can't be friends with someone who owns it, or you have to disclose all that kind of stuff before you grade a stock. You can't have a family that owns a bond if you want to grade it. You can't just say I'm going to disregard that because we're not going to take advantage of that. So it's not really. I'm not even necessarily saying that it was evil or like they did necessarily do something bad, but there's a huge conflict of interest there. There is.
But are you saying a conflict of interest in his stake in Wata and that he's trying to boost the value of the company so he can sell the company Wata? Or are you saying in the video game market and we're artificially inflating values of games? Like,
Sorry, go again.
Like you're saying that there's a conflict of interest that this is in the value of his company, like of his share of Wata, not the graded video game market per se.
The conflict of interest. Sorry, I didn't quite understand. I'll clarify. He owns stake in Wata that was not made public, and he has an exclusivity deal with Wata with Heritage Auctions, and it was not made public that he owned Wata. So I personally argue that he needed to legally disclose that, which people can get into that. I mean, that's going to be hashed out in court, but there's a big conflict of interest there, and the fact that it was secret does increase, skepticism.
Makes it shady.
What does it affect though? Like, what difference does it make is my point. Like, I don't think it changed the value of games. I don't think it changed interest in the demand.
Well, it changed people's opinions on bidding for games.
Not really.
Regulations.
Not really.
In my second video, I gave the example of the YouTubers who were advertising their gambling website without saying that they were the owners. You could say the same thing. Like, what does it change?
Yeah, but are we picking?
But it's illegal. The whole point of the law, well, it's to prevent people from manipulating it. It's to prevent, like, you still have to say, okay, I'm not going to be put in that position because there's the possibility of someone taking advantage of it. You basically have to say, if it's okay for Jim Halpern to do that, then it's okay for anyone to do that. But that's not how we have to work in society. We have to say either everyone can do it or no one can do it. Just because there's a certain percentage of the population will take advantage of that kind of thing, if you allow anyone to do it. So you can't say after the fact he didn't take advantage of it, therefore it was okay, if that makes sense.
I don't know. I still believe that the implication from your first video, was that he is guilty of manipulating the video game market. I think if you polled, your 700,000 followers, I think over 99% would heavily agree that he artificially boosted the market and then caused the $1.5 million Mario sale. And I'm saying I don't believe it's relevant, like at least the point that we're currently talking about. I don't think that would have changed anything in that regard. And then,
well, that's a fair argument.
Yeah.
That's a fair
conversation. But the fact that he didn't means we can't ever tell that because we don't know what would have happened.
And one other thing, so like the catalyst was that the perfect grading company came along and then it hit auction. And those were the two things. And if you look, it was a trajectory from there. And it's not because of collusion or anything. Like anybody that was in the market at that time knew in 2018 or 2017, they knew that the market was just waiting for those two things to happen. So that was the catalyst, not market manipulation.
He's right about that because I was selling in the market well before Wata was even conceived of, and I had the same inclination.
Secondly, Karl, in your video, and I understand like you're making a video, fair enough. You go out at 20,000 feet and you pick a few points as so you were saying that your video was suggesting that basically the collusion between Wata and Heritage was the first catalyst, and the second catalyst was the $100,000 Mario sale. And basically it was implied that through those two misdeeds, those were the two catalysts that artificially sent the market up. And I would also disagree with the second one, with the $100,000 Mario. I was there. I saw the article. I was in the market the entire time, 10 years, or, you know, however long it was, 10 years prior to that, or 15 years, whatever. I'm losing track of time there. But anyways, when the $100,000 Mario article came out, that didn't boost.
January 2019.
Whenever that article came out, we all saw it. You know, I'm saying we, the video game community.
Everyone saw that.
Yeah.
Everyone saw it.
Guess what? If you saw it, then you know that in that article it said right at the bottom that Jim Halpern was one of the owners. It was not secret. It was right in the article. If you knew about it, you must have seen that article. You must have read that. So it wasn't a secret. And secondly, that didn't.
It was a secret. What secret that Halpern was an owner of Wata?
Owner of Wata.
That's true. That's true.
Because you've got Dennis Kahn saying in that same press release. Dennis Kahn says, you know, I would love to have owned this. Yeah. But there's a big conflict of interest of me owning it.
But is that
so? Why is Dennis? So Dennis technically agrees that there's a conflict of interest, which is why even he was publicly saying that Wata employees can't have games graded or sell games by Wata.
Some guy that's probably never even been to the Wata warehouse and gave a small financial boost to two young guys that want to start a business. I don't believe that.
Can I just jump in here real quick? Because the truth is, and Pete was making this. You know, Peter, I'm going to throw yours in. You know, I think the problem is that he, you know, it wasn't understood by people, and I think that companies in unregulated markets, small markets like this, apparently do this all the time. You know, is what Peter's point was. I mean, I worked for the big banks, and you know, I think that Karl has a point, especially when you talk about the more regulated markets. All of the stuff that kind of happened, if this was part of, like, you know, the stock market, SEC oversight, and some of the more established markets, none of this stuff would have flown. Like, that's true. But we're not in those markets. And Peter's point is we're not in those markets, and lots of companies do this, and it's essentially accepted. Now, I don't accept it as like a thing that should be legal, but if it's essentially accepted as being legal, then maybe there's not a legality issue here other than maybe just bad business.
Oh, okay, let's say I own 10% of the shares of Wynn Resorts. I go to the Wynn and I'm betting on their tables. Is that a conflict of interest? I know that you can't bet there if you're an employee, because it opens the door for, you know, employees, you know, giving inside stuff. If you're an outsider, I don't, you know.
That's not the issue then. It would be an issue if you then advertised, you went publicly and said, Wynn is so great, and I was playing their tables, and, you know, I won this money, and then didn't tell anyone that you owned a share of that company. Oh, so if you don't tell people that you own the shares, and you are publicly endorsing them and saying how great they are, that's a problem.
But
so that's
definitely in the stock market. It would be in the stock market.
The whole reason that Dennis was saying that he can't grade his own games is because he works there. He's at the grader desk. That makes sense. But
used to be.
Sorry. Well, whatever. Yeah, whatever.
Used to be.
Yeah, but I'm saying people that are in the active day-to-day business, I understand it's a good rule to have. But, you know, Karl, you did detective work and found a few, you know, initial guys that put up, I'm sure, a small financial stake. You found that they were dealing games. I don't find that to be as terrible, I guess, you know, as it was made to seem in your video. I mean, it didn't change anything. I don't think that they got preferential treatment. Actually, I'm certain of it. And I don't got preferential treatment on their grades. I don't think they...
Well, how can you be certain of it? You can't be.
Well, I mean, you can't be that I or you either then.
I can't be certain of it either. I think his point is we can't be certain of it. That's why it's a bad look. It may not be, whether it's illegal, it's a bad look either way.
trust. I mean, or else why aren't they giving you preferential treatment? You're friends with them.
That's the thing is I spent a lot of money there. I was the second most games graded for a long time of anyone who submitted, and I didn't get any kind of special treatment.
The VGA of beer.
But yeah, I mean, I didn't get any special treatment. You know, I know that certain people got some things back faster than others. You know, but I know VGA has done it more so than, you know, has done more of that, you know, kind of relationship type, you know, grading than you know, probably Wata has in their short time out. But, you know, I mean, we also just accept that there is going to be, I mean, I accepted a long time ago that not everything is going to be 100% fair. I mean, it's not 100% fair in the stock market when senators and Congress people get to vote, you know, get to sell shares ahead of you know, laws that they're voting on. But we allow it.
Not what's happening here. But just to quickly finish my point on the $100,000 Mario, when that article dropped, that did not. That I don't know. I don't consider that a catalyst. I was buying Marios at the time. Or, you know, was in the market and was seeing what was happening. It wasn't an overnight pump and dump kind of deal, as was implied, is all I'm saying on that. But, you know,
it was definitely wrong. Again, that's a fair argument, right? To say, you know, their actions didn't really have that great an impact either way on the market is a completely fair argument to make.
Mm-hmm.
And even if I conceded all of that, which I'm happy to do, it still doesn't make their actions right or wrong. It doesn't affect the morality. But yeah, like on the, can I bring up the porn stars thing?
Yes, absolutely.
Because you said in your video he didn't
give an opinion of value.
But in my opinion, he did, and I showed the clip.
Yeah. Can I clarify?
Can you clarify what you meant?
Yes. So, okay, I've never looked into NFTs ever before, but I've heard that there's such a thing as a floor price, which means I think it's the open bid, or something like that's what the current open bid is. For me to be asked what's my opinion on an NFT's value, and for me to say, well, I don't know, the current offer is 300,000. I guess it's 300,000 or maybe up from there. Is that an expert opinion of value? Is that a personal opinion of value? Or am I simply just pointing out a fact? Like, so in my opinion, when he said, you know, and by the way, I'm not necessarily 100% right on this. Like, you might be, you know, if it went to court, maybe you're more right than I am. But in my opinion, for someone to say, well, there's a $300,000 offer, so I mean, that could be accepted in 1 second, or I guess more than that, you know, for there or more. Is that really?
Because he said if it go. The question was, if this goes to auction, and I guess, yeah. I mean,
I don't think he gave an opinion of value. He said there's an offer of this. I guess it's that or more. Like, it's not going to be less than that because there's an offer for that.
That is a good point. But it's questionable why he knew that there was an offer, except that it was his boss's.
Yeah. I mean, and again, I go back to the point where if we put ourselves in their shoes, and again, we don't, you know, people love a good and a bad guy story, and they love to hate people and all this crap.
It's true.
Try to get real and say, you know what, this Jim Halpern, which by the way, he is a nice, good guy. I know people that he's helped out of the goodness. He'll give you the shirt off his back. I know that for a fact. So, you know, maybe he's done some stuff in the past. Maybe everybody's done stuff in the past. Either way, but you know, to put yourself in his shoes and say, hey, like, do you want to imagine you're just launching your company, you're launching your grading division, and you're saying, hey, do you want to buy this? You want to go partners on this $100,000 Mario? Like, hey, yeah, why not? It'd be good for the market. That's what I wouldn't. I'm saying I don't think I would sit back and say, holy cow, this might be, you know, Karl Jobst might make a video on this one day. I wouldn't be going through my mind.
Again, I think that's just not the issue.
Okay.
You know, it's literally, it's the he can do that. And when they did the press release, they did mention that he was a part owner, that he purchased the cart, right?
It was a good idea, marketing wise.
Just just the non-disclosure of the conflict of interest, and then because of that, you can't. It raises questions.
Can we just say though, like in your video, you absolutely destroyed me. Like, and you were welcome to do that. But my point is, now that we're actually talking about every single one of these points, it's like, well, actually, I agree, Pat, isn't into sealed, but in your clip, you misrepresented that clip, and you know what I'm saying? But my point was actually more or less generally correct. My point is,
that's the thing, and that's the conflation. My issue is dishonesty.
Right.
Okay. But you could have addressed that point in a completely honest way. So I'm sure you probably could have found a clip of Pat saying, show the clip of him saying open your sealed games, or show the clip of him actually saying your argument. And then that's a good thing. So it's my beef is with deceptive tactics.
Right. But it's more like from a fact checker kind of standpoint. I'm saying and I'm going back to your first video, like a lot of what you're saying, the big implication is that this is massive fraud. Games are worth zero and they were completely inflated by these evil geniuses. And really, actually, when you get down to it and we're talking about each individual point, really we're just splitting hairs on whether was this good or bad, either way. But really there's no evidence of actual manipulation, actual boosting, and maybe, just maybe, these games are bought by real collectors who see the value, and maybe $1.5 million. It's a lot of money to me. It's a lot of money to both of you gentlemen, but maybe to somebody they thought, you know what? For fun, I'm going to bid an extra 500,000 because it's funny. Like I'm just saying, there's people like that, and so was it fraud by Heritage or was it real people? Is my point.
Well, here's the thing, because that's like legally, I'm not sure that's how. For example, this is a completely crazy example. Don't take this super literally.
Just make an analogy, okay? Everybody, an analogy. Just make an analogy. Go ahead, Karl.
Yeah.
The crime of attempted murder.
Okay.
And you could say, well, he didn't actually murder them. He just tried to. So, that's the kind of argument I see. It's where, technically they didn't manipulate the market that much because they didn't have much of an impact. But from what I see the attempt to.
Where did they attempt to manipulate the prices of sealed video games?
Well, the manipulation is, again, if it was individuals who didn't have stake in Wata, or wasn't Wata doing it, for example, because you can come out and say video games should be worth this much and that much and all that kind of stuff, and I wouldn't have a problem with that. That's fine. But it still is kind of trying to manipulate the market. Well, it does manipulate the market because it sends the message that the price of games is going up. So even though that type of manipulation isn't wrong in my eyes, but if Wata Games, who is supposed to be an authority, and in my opinion, a grading company should not be impacting the market.
But how do you feel if like their business is grading? They're not allowed to talk about their product? Like that, I don't understand.
They can talk about their product for sure, but they weren't talking about their product. They were talking about the video games are selling for so much and the price is going up.
I mean,
that's not their product. That's the market.
So maybe the issue, if I'm understanding, and I kind of understand, I kind of think the same thing. So I'll throw it out there. Maybe the person to evaluate the price, or at least the market value of a game, shouldn't necessarily be the company that's giving it a grade. Which also they do too on a daily basis when they tell us that we submitted a game for too little and we have to pay the difference because the insurance policy, blah blah blah, and we owe them $200 to grade a single game. Like like most companies, you declare the value and that's what it's insured for. Why is this company telling us, well, we need to declare for $5,000? Well, no, if I declare for $2,000 and you lose it or damage it, I only get $2,000 back. That's on me, right? Like the same thing is, I think is what he's saying about the misrepresentation is if they're building it up, what place do they have evaluating market pricing when they're not in the market technically. They're outside of the market. Their market is grading, not selling sealed games.
But when you go to CGC's front page right now, not that I've been there recently, but it'll say right on the front page, $3.5 million sale for a Superman. Like, is that the market, or is that just that's
just data? That's data.
A fact.
Yeah,
it's data.
Exactly.
That's a fact. But Dennis is saying, Dennis was saying, as a representative of Wata, was saying the prices are going up and they will continue to go up. So wow. that's not him just saying. For example, if he said, if on Pawn Stars, if he did say, I know sales are $300,000. I can't say anything more than that, really. I just know that. Then that's one thing. But him saying, but again, all the messaging from Wata was exactly what he said on Pawn Stars, where it goes up and there's no ceiling. And if you look at all the press releases, all of the news articles, it's the same messaging. Prices going up. We're going to continue to see record prices. I see that as trying to build a speculative market.
You watch CNBC tomorrow, you're going to see companies, maybe not in this market, but a year ago, if you go, you'll see people saying, yes, I forecast demand will continue to increase for our product.
You know what's interesting, actually, in this regard? If you turn on CNBC,
he's not saying the price of Wata is going to go up. Okay, he's not talking about his own product. He's not talking about the grading. He's talking about the market of great video games, which is not Wata.
Well, again, the interesting part is, though, that if he was in the stock market, like, let's use Kramer since you said CNBC, because Kramer's example. Whenever you turn on Kramer, and for any of the people who watch financial news, whenever you turn on Kramer, it gives you this little blurb. All the views expressed are those of Jim Kramer alone and not property of CNBC and all that. Now, again, that's the stock market versus an unregulated, child's market sort of thing. But I think that's what Karl would like to see, but again, I think we're in the infancy of this, and that's why this stuff happens.
Karl, have you ever talked directly with Dennis?
No.
Yeah, and I can see why not. Obviously, at this
point.
Well,
I tried to.
He's a hell of a.
I don't know if you want to speak to me. I'm always happy to speak to anyone, but I did try to speak.
Did not. I fully am convicted, and he's part of the reason why I made that video. Initially is because he is a super guy, and I think that he got destroyed. Sorry, he didn't get destroyed, but it did damage to his character unjustly, in my opinion, because it was heavily implied, whether you directly did or indirectly, but it was heavily implied that he is, behind a scheme here, and I do not believe he was. I think that quite the opposite. I'm impressed by what he created.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we talked about this a little bit earlier too, Bad Dog. It's my contention about this the same. He's a good guy that got stuck in a difficult position where you've got your one hand, your loyalty to your clients and everything else, and then the other hand, you got your bosses telling you to do something. And I think it was a tough situation for him to be in, and I can relate. If I was in that situation, I might have made the same mistake, but I don't think I don't think he deserves to be crucified for it.
I don't know who his boss is either. I think he was the CEO, wasn't he?
The boss is, when you're a CEO, the boss is your board of advisors, the board.
Well, okay, but you're still implying
people who own the company. You have to answer. Everybody answers to somebody.
Well, I don't think he answers to Jim, if that's what you're saying. I don't think that there's some evil guy behind the towel here.
I imagine if Jim was a significant shareholder, which he probably was, he probably participated in the board meetings, which made him, in a place of power.
I don't know. I don't know how big the company was at that point. I don't know if there was these big board meetings, but anyway.
I don't know either. I imagine, but I don't know.
I'm looking more like a principled argument where it's like, again, it's either okay for everyone or okay for no one. So, that's why we have certain laws to restrict the possibility of manipulation, the possibility of fraud.
I understand the speculation, guys. What I'm saying is, if I was in Dennis's position and my bosses were telling me to do something, I can understand why he would do that. All I'm saying is, let's give him the benefit of the doubt, because if you were in his position and someone of power above you you know, and your investors are above you when you're, you know, if someone told him to do something, it would be very hard for him. You know, he might not even think twice about it. I think he should get the benefit of the doubt in that sense. He may have, you know, he may not have made the right choice, but again, he's being pressured by people who are giving him money.
Some of the stuff was, in my opinion, egregious. Like, for example, saying that, you know, I don't want there, because when he says stuff like, you know, I wanted to be an owner of the game, but I didn't want there to be a conflict of interest. So he's basically saying that he's aware that conflicts of interest exist, but he's okay for the owners of Wata to own that game. You know what I mean?
Well,
So that's what
he just said, I'm speculating that his bosses, that they were his bosses. But in a typical setup, when you take money from people, they get to dictate your policies, at least to some degree. Now, I don't know what the setup was here, but in most cases, when you take money from someone, they have control over some of the company.
Can I say quickly, we're talking about like evil. This is not like an evil. It's kind of weird. I think that it got blown out of proportion because people, I think, like I said originally, like ages ago, gamers are very passionate. Yeah. And it got blown out of proportion. But like, if honestly, if you're like, I never said it was like evil, or like I said, even in my original video, I didn't say, you know, cancel Wata, all that kind of stuff. I told people to email them to release population reports. I mean, if I really thought that Wata was so evil that they shouldn't even exist or run as a company, or all these people were super terrible, I wouldn't have even told people to do that. You
have a knack for completely destroying, like, you might not directly, but your viewers, anyways.
Yeah, that's.
You have a knack for that. You're good at that, but.
Yeah, I understand that, but personally, I don't. Like, again, it sucks because you're right. Let's say I have a skill for arguing a point or something.
Yeah.
Then, unfortunately, a large amount of people see that and then go to the extreme.
Yeah, like,
but I'm not like these people are evil or whatever.
Right.
I just.
I'm not saying that either.
I just think they tried to manipulate them. I just think they tried to create a speculative bubble. Like, I really think that, just based on everything.
Create a speculative bubble, there has to be shill bidding.
Why is that?
How else do you create a speculative bubble without
misinformation? Maybe, I don't know that that's the only
bubbles. Like, it's about it's just about mass awareness. So it's about mass. If you look at Beanie Babies, for example, I don't think that wasn't caused by like shill bidding. You have to look into it, but it's basically saying to the public, like sending out a message to as many people as you can, the price is going up. And people just, humans by nature,
Yeah.
like, you're not going to get out of that.
You can't
It's going to be
up. It's all public price records. So
sorry.
Like, you can't say that the prices are going up because every price sale through Heritage is like public. So you can't say that the prices are going up. It's all transparent. Like, you'd have to see them going up to be told that they're going up.
Wasn't this before? When was the first Heritage
January
auction? What?
July. What are you talking about? The July 2021?
No, the first Heritage auction with Wata Games.
Or sorry,
I think it was February 2019.
19. Sorry, yeah.
Was that
February, I think.
Or after the that was after the Mario sale?
Right after the $100,000 Mario.
Was the Mario sale promoting the first auction?
The Mario sale is after.
Oh, he said December 2019, so he's saying it. Someone said it. Josh is saying it was right before. I thought it was February, but it was right around the time of that Mario. It was definitely right around that time.
Oh, okay.
December 2018. He means. So if it was January 2019 was when the news on that Mario broke.
Yeah, like, I believe that was done in part to help promote the launch of
100%.
Yeah, I believe that.
Of course.
We say this,
and there's nothing illegal about that, but it may have been, shady, but it was nothing illegal.
Right. And like,
so this is the kind of language that I have a problem with. When on the press release, Khan said, breaking the six-figure mark shows that the hobby's upward trajectory indicates no signs of slowing down. I guess.
Which it didn't. That's a fact.
Yeah.
That's not speculation. That's a fact.
Josh is
Yeah.
giving us the weather and what happened on that Sunday in December. Some guy bought a Zelda Classic for $3K. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah. Okay. So, and again, we've already gone over it multiple times, so we're
Yeah.
going to probably just. But Khan did say, I didn't want the remote perception of any conflict of interest due to my position at Wata.
Yeah, because he
And
worked,
sorry.
because he was an employee in the building. That he I believe if you read.
Yeah, but he's talking about perception. Is he not aware that people would think that being an owner of Wata Games is a conflict of interest?
When you say owner, I mean for a guy to give two kids that are starting a business in a garage, $10,000. I don't look at it like he's an honorary board member.
You're talking about Dennis, aren't you?
Yeah, like I'm not saying I know what they.
No, Karl. I mean, don't you mean Dennis? Are you talking about Jim or Dennis?
Jim.
I'm talking about the 100K Mario sale.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant Dennis.
So I would have loved to have been a part owner. I just didn't want the remote perception of any conflict of interest due to my position. Is he really that naive that he doesn't know that being an investor of Wata or being on the board of directors is a conflict of interest?
I just don't think that some guy, like for let's say Jim, or let's say that he met with Dennis in 2018 and said, hey, you kids need a little bit of money to start your business. Here, like 15 grand. I believe in your concept. Here you go. And then he never talks to them again for a year. Like, is that really a huge conflict of interest that he buys a graded?
Yeah, he's talking about perception.
That's speculation, though, too, Mad Dog.
It's like he's saying, I don't want the perception of.
Yeah.
But the public has no idea who Jim is. He just. You know what I mean?
We're talking wrongdoing and we're talking creating a bubble. I think both are completely irrelevant. I think we're just splitting hairs and being fact checker on this article, which means nothing. Like we're just saying, is it a fallacy or not? Like, it doesn't matter. Like
I may be the only one left in this room that still doesn't want to call it a bubble. But I mean, for all the reasons that we already talked about tonight, for all the reasons that caused the decline, that doesn't necessarily make it a speculative bubble. Was there some speculative bubbles going on at the time? Absolutely. But the entire market as a whole, I mean, that July auction created speculative bubbles in certain games, a lot of games, but certain games. I don't think the whole market was in a speculative bubble. I think it was a consequence of a perfect storm of money and free money and low interest rates and people staying at home. I think the fact that we've gone down so much, has been a consequence of the economy and other things too. I think, it's the catalyst was the $1.5 million Mario, but it wouldn't have taken us down to where we are now if it wasn't all these other economic pressures pushing in. So again, for me, I don't think it's a bubble. I think it's just
my one point is, for someone that was kind of on the fence looking into sealed video games, let's just say July 2021 or whenever Karl dropped his first video, when you all of a sudden see in the news, like I'm saying, real news is reporting that fraud has occurred in the video game market. Real news. You're not going to rush into that market. I'm sorry. It definitely creates people to have some hesitation to jump into the market. Like there's absolutely no question. And I'm talking the high end of the market, right?
It's a bubble, dude.
So I mean, there's no question that at least a number of
people, in your experience,
mm-hmm.
The high end buyers,
mm-hmm.
were they going off news articles and stuff, or were they inside money, like who had connections with people, with collectors in existing markets like comics, cards, and coins?
I think there's a ton of crossover in the high end, and I think a lot of people don't have any inside people in the hobby. They're on Heritage, they're buying sports cards, they see an article that Heritage carries video games, they think, hey, that's kind of cool. They go on it and they bid. Or they read a news article, oh wow, I heard there's fraud. They're not going to rush in and bid in the next auction for their first time. That's just my point.
So they're not speaking directly with the high-end collectors?
No. I would say most really high-end collectors aren't going to go on Instagram and look up video game collectors. Most high-end guys aren't going to rush in and do that. I don't believe.
I think the crossovers from other industries, man. I think they are talking to people on the inside. I think a lot of the hype. I think the hype is coming from people who know better.
Yeah, I know for a fact in the hobby of movie posters, there are tons of like big time super wealthy buyers that'll enter the market. No one's ever heard of them in the whole hobby, and they'll buy for 2 auctions and then they're gone. You know, I'm just saying it happens. So
the Redditor that bought Mario, the guy who made Reddit,
okay,
you familiar with him?
I'm not. Which Mario did he buy?
Well, he bought the 1.5, right? The creator of Reddit.
I didn't.
Thanks, Karl.
Does he have any connections with any collective markets previously?
I've never personally heard of him, to be honest.
You don't know much about it, Dave?
Going back to the $1.5 million Mario, I know the people who were bidding on it were the person who won it. Was talking to people on the inside and probably just got too excited. Honestly, again, these were super rich people who have limited. I want to share a little story. Kind of on a similar tangent. I mean, before all this happened, I think it was about April or May of 2021. Suddenly, Super Mario 1 shot up. And the reason it shot up was because there was a confirmed sale of a 9.4A oval seal for $150,000 or 9.48 plus, I think it was. And it was a confirmed sale. It happened. I know it happened, and I know who bought it. And the thing is that the person who bought it, was looking for a Super Mario 1. He has a lot of money. And he found one at a fixed price for $150,000. It was an insane price. It didn't make sense. But at the same time, he pulled the trigger because he didn't want to keep looking, and he found what he wanted, and that's what he wanted, and he had money to do it. After that, the rest of the market shot up, and people were trying to sell their Super Marios. I actually had a Super Mario that I was supposed to get. A guy canceled on me. No harm, no foul, whatever. It's all good, water under the bridge. But the point is that people stopped wanting to take $35,000 for their Super Marios, and everybody wanted $150,000. Well, fast forward to today. Now Super Mario has been the most overcorrected game to the point where it's going to on levels that don't even make sense anymore. If I could give one piece of advice to everybody in this room is go buy yourself a Super Mario 1 because it's well overcorrected. But, again, because of that $150,000 sale, everything exploded, but it was just one guy who saw it on the buy now, bought it now, and then everything's off the races. And I think that's kind of the effect that stuff had at Heritage. And I don't know, part of it was manipulation through hype and through that kind of thing. But I think that there were real bidders out there. And I think that's important to know is we know who the bidders are. People who are close to this know who the bidders were. And there were real bidders. Those weren't like that. That auction wasn't shill. It was misrepresented, perhaps, and it was maybe unethical the way they presented information to these guys. But at the same time, these guys just have lots of money and they just push buy it now. So it's a complicated situation, and I don't think we're necessarily going to get to a common consensus on this tonight. But I just want to point out that that particular issue happened for those reasons. It isn't necessarily it wasn't a complete fraud.
Well, what I will say is what me and Mad Dog what I can say is that you have more experience, obviously, when it comes to the market. So when you say none of these. Oh, how do I say this? Yeah, I don't even want to try and argue that I'm right when it comes to, this created this, like the Mario sale. Like my first video was a lot of the stuff when I was talking about what impacted the market was just me making assumptions based on my limited knowledge, right? Mm-hmm. So, I'm happy to concede all that stuff. What we will obviously continue to disagree on is the how a grading company should conduct business, and and whether or not what they did was ethically right or wrong. You think it's fine, from what I understand. I have a different opinion on that. But again, it's not like these people are evil, and I don't have that impression.
Implied, though.
Sorry?
It was heavily implied in your video.
Your
viewers took that away, that they are evil, and I mean, you've read your.
I like the clarification, though, that at least he separated the rest of gaming from, like, the people that he's mad at, right? Like, he can be mad at these people and not be mad at all gaming, and I think that was at least clearer this time. I'd love to see you come back and do another or a fourth video and talk about all the great things about gaming.
Karl can take
Can I not
do fame?
My new fame?
What's that?
Say again?
I said Karl can take advantage of my new celebrity.
No, you say that my video implies they're like super bad people. I mean, I personally don't feel that way. And again, how am I supposed to like convey that I think what they did was wrong, while not conveying? Again, this is the zealot nature of people. This is where people are so too black and white. Where I can totally say, I think they shouldn't have tried to manipulate the market, but that doesn't say anything about what I think of them as people.
No, and it's not about them as people, by the way. That's irrelevant. This is a business.
Right. So how and you're saying that my video implied that they were super bad people, but how am I supposed to say this was wrong without implying that?
Personal level, I'm saying that you're implying that they created a bubble and that they manipulated the market, and I'm saying splitting hairs on a minor ethical issue, whether this guy should have graded or not, which didn't affect the market in any way, and all the things that we kind of went over today, like the $100,000 Mario sale, different things, they might have been questionably ethical, but was there massive market manipulation that led to the cover of your video being the $1.5 million Mario with a big arrow pointing to it saying either scam or fraud or something? I'm just saying, I don't believe that was implied in your video. I believe even right possibly by the cover, if I'm going off of memory. I'm just saying, being just going over the questionable little intricacies of their minor business dealings, which didn't affect the market. I'm saying, yeah, that might be worth a little video, but for it to hit headline news that massive fraud has caused a $1.5 million Mario sale, that's a big leap, is all I'm saying.
Well, again, the headlines ran with it. They ran with it a little bit differently than I specifically said in my video. But again, I have very strong opinions on certain things. Like, again, for the porn stars thing, it's like you might think it's minor.
It's a fake show. It's not real. Like,
it's not entirely fake.
But
it's partially fake.
Just an example, and I don't want to be sued by A&E or whatever, but they will reach out to people and say, "Hey, we're going to feature movie posters. Do you have anything you'd like to feature on the show? Okay, great. Here you go." They give you a script. They shoot it 10 different times from different.
They don't give you a script. They don't give you a script.
Sorry, they don't give you.
The issue is that it is an expert. If you look at how standpoint is, what's the expectation from the viewer? And the expectation from the viewer is that the expert is real and that the expert is giving an expert opinion.
And then they're unethical, and so is Storage Wars and all that, because they're fake shows.
Why is that? I don't understand what's real about them?
Well, if you're saying that the viewer's expectation is that it's real, then that's on the show.
I didn't say that the expectation is that the show is real.
It's not completely. It's not completely fake.
Not real.
Mad Dog, have you been? You were on, weren't you?
No, I wasn't. But they believe me.
It's not completely fake.
$1 million.
Partially fake.
When the $1 million
aren't they bring in fake experts intentionally?
No, they bring in real experts, and it's like a marketing strategy, right? Like every one of those guys, I don't think they have to pay to be on there, but like they go on because it's promoting their business. That's the only thing going on. And I'm saying, like, the $1 million Mario, that whole thing was fake. They knew walking in the door they weren't going to buy it. So why?
That part of it's fake, yes, but
yeah.
because it's all
But that's not the issue.
television.
Well, no, if he had offered them $1 million, he would have sold.
No, they in like, you're going to offer $1 million, we're going to turn it down. This is what we're going to do. Cool, come on in.
Right.
It's all
That's true.
all just a big fake show. That's all I'm saying.
That's
It's 100% staged. So
It's not.
well,
all-
but it's not scripted. It's not scripted. That's the important part. It wasn't scripted. They chose their words.
There's a difference between scripted and fake.
it's okay. Sorry, but again, we're picking hairs here or splitting
Oh,
hairs.
but we're not. We're not picking hairs at all, because I'm trying to explain that. I'm trying to explain that, like, the long-term repercussions of thinking that this action is okay. So again, you're coming from a position of, I know this person on a personal level, and I know that he didn't have super ill intentions, and he's not some bad guy and all this kind of stuff. You're coming from that, from a very close to that person, intricate knowledge of the situation perspective. And I'm saying that on a overall moral standpoint, you can't allow that behavior in principle.
Okay.
And you can't just say, I'm going to let Dennis do it because I know him and he's a nice guy. He's allowed to do it just because I know him on a personal level, and I think it's okay. That's not how it works. I think you have to look at it I personally look at things on a blanket level, and companies should not be dishonest in any way if they can avoid it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Does that make,
But like,
you can disagree. Your point makes
Well,
sense.
that's where the disagreement lies. I mean, just to be clear, that's what this is. This is exactly where you guys part ways, right?
crime could have been committed, but it wasn't. Like, it's, but they,
And Carl's standpoint is that it doesn't matter whether whether it affected the crime was in the plot, right?
well, not in the,
And you're saying you're saying it's based on the outcome. He's saying it's not based on the outcome. That's where we go our separate ways, I think.
That is correct. Because if you let Dennis or Wata go on Pawn Stars and not disclose connections, then that means you have to let the next company do that. And that means, but you don't know this next company, and you don't know how truthful they are. You don't know their intentions at all.
I'll guarantee.
So you have to stop. You have to stop the possibility of people taking advantage. You have to stop. This is why the FTC has regulations on disclosure in general.
Mm-hmm.
It's because if you don't have rules telling people that they have to disclose these things, a certain percentage of people will take advantage of that. Now, people a lot more than I do. We probably still disagree a little bit about intentions, but just overall, I don't think you can allow that behavior or endorse it or think it's okay.
Right.
But just on a macro level, it's not going to end well.
Right. I mean, then it's tough to regulate small businesses, like, right?
No, it's small. Like, when it comes to, like I said, the FTC regulations about it. Again, it's not tough to regulate. It's not a regulation about grading. It's not a regulation on collectibles. It's a regulation on how you can actually publicly, say things.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, yeah, as far as regulation on collectibles, I'm not even I have no idea.
Yeah. I think that we probably agree on a lot more than we realize. I mean, now we realize maybe, but I don't think we disagree on a lot, probably.
I think that's true.
And I think just in our videos, it comes off a lot more aggressive towards each other.
Well, that's why I think I really appreciate the conversation that I had with Get the Great Games. Mm-hmm. And I really appreciate the conversations that I had with Dan and Tom and Dave. It's like, if you come at me with like good, honest, good faith conversation, say, hey, like, I really appreciate you coming on. I really respect that. Mm-hmm. Because, we blasted each other in the videos. But because you might have been like, fuck Karl, he's a bad person. I don't want to speak with him.
Maybe for the first 5 minutes he was, but
no, not even.
But
good.
A super good thing, right? So if we can, these conversations are better rather than, and maybe that bleeds into whether or not I should have. Well, I agree with you that my first video was too provocative.
Yeah.
So I think I totally agree with that. But I wasn't intentionally lying. I wasn't like,
Right.
I really believed everything I said, you know. I fully believed everything I said.
A lot of the blowback also is out of your control. It's your followers.
Yeah.
All that, which I get it. It's like a runaway train, right? And
Yeah.
but I mean, yeah, they, anyways, they
He was the catalyst, but he had, so he is, listen, there's bad, there's bad, there's bad people out there everywhere.
Yeah.
And there's just, no matter what, no matter whether it's bad, positive, sideways, you get a few minutes on the internet and people are going to attack you. I'm sure people are going to say I'm ugly after this, so that's okay. My wife has to deal with that, not me. So this is what the internet is, though. And I think any star, anybody who's been popular, says the same thing. Like, they have to take social media breaks because it's just so toxic at times. But I think both of you do share a lot in common, and I think, honestly, I love the fact that we've been able to come together tonight, because I think we have squashed a lot of, animosity and resentment. And I think it's really healthy to just, get and realize, hey, we're not really that different. We both love the same hobby. We just, we have these opinions, and that's okay. As long as we can sit down and have a civil conversation.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is fun, right?
Yeah. Honestly, the real victim here is Dennis and Wata. Anyways, I just think that there's.
Dennis could have come at me after, and again, we could have had a good conversation, and then maybe would have squashed a lot of stuff after that video.
Well, listen, no matter the fact that
I was defamatory and wrong about everything.
Yeah.
But listen, Wata and Dennis are going to be okay. That's the one thing I'm going to say. They both got sold, or not Dennis got sold, but Wata got sold. They all made some money. If they have to take a little bit of heat, I feel for them, but I'm also okay with it.
Yeah,
it's hard to feel sorry for rich people.
Not a lot of money love.
You guys are a lot more wealthy than I am. A lot more wealthy than I am.
It's not all about wealth.
Yeah. No, but it's also about growing. Somebody just said it. It's about being grown up and just understanding it comes with the territory. You want to make it big. You want to be successful. You got to take a little shit too.
Yeah, I get it.
But okay, I will say long term, this is going to be water under the bridge.
Yeah,
I think. Like I said, we'll wrap it up. But I mean, I'm going to be a long term advocate, and. I would like it if we all got along, and at least, even if we have disagreements on certain things, can come together on the things we agree on.
But Mad Dog and I both want to be on your next video, Karl.
No, stay out of it.
All right, never mind.
I would, but I mean, I don't know.
No, I would love, Karl. You have such a great following. I would love for you to make another piece that really tells about your passion for the Steel games.
It would be cool to bring people together rather than all this divisiveness and hate and all this crap. And I'm not saying even hate between you and I, Karl, because I don't believe that you're a personal guy. I'm not a personal guy when it comes to this kind of crap. It doesn't hurt my feelings, but there's a lot of hate out. And I think it'd be healthy for people to see that maybe hate is not the most healthy thing to pursue in your personal time.
I would love to see a new, pro collecting. We got these bad eggs over here, but here's all the good stuff. And here's what
in my new office, I'm gonna get shelves installed, display the games that I have and stuff. So I mean, it's gonna be in all my videos. So yeah, I just think, long term, I want to celebrate it more, because I've been wanting to collect. I'm not a collector, I'm not going to get these massive collections that just have certain games that are important to me that I want. But I've loved the idea of it for a decade or more, and Mad Dog, you're totally correct that heritage, promoting at these auctions is a boom. It's because even myself didn't know how easy it was to buy. So because you're right in that it used to be the Wild West, right? And now the process. If I'm like, hey, I want to buy games, the process is very simple. I can just go to Heritage Auctions or Certified or Golden or whatever, and just have a look and see what games they've got up there. So and I can appreciate that I've entered the market because I've learned that the process is super simple. So the whole simplicity, the whole streamline of it is definitely, there's something there.
Yeah.
So I definitely appreciate that. And yeah, I think I'm just excited about promoting into the future.
Cool.
Nice. Well, I appreciate both of you coming on tonight. I know it's gone really long, and Karl, I know you're extremely tired. So thank you for being a trooper. Thank you for sticking it out with us. I think this was incredibly healthy, and I really appreciate both of you coming on, being nice. I appreciate everybody in the comments who was nice. The few people who left a few rude comments, so be it. Yeah. Just really happy that we could sit down and have a conversation. I invite you both to either come back, and talk again with us, or with each other, with us, whatever. The more dialogues we have, the more fun this is, honestly. So I know a lot of people had fun watching this tonight, and I just really appreciate everyone for coming. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate Dan, even though he makes a few trolling comments here and there. Kaplan, I'm looking at you, and everybody else in here. It's been a life-changing event for me. Sealed Games has changed everything for me, as I think it's going to for a lot of people. And Karl, you've been a big part of that. Mad Dog, you've been a big part of that for me. So I just want to thank you both.
For sure, and thank you. I appreciate, Karl, you coming on here. I know it's a few less viewers than you're used to here, but
no, well, it's tougher for you to come on than it is for me. I mean, I think I came out on the good end of it. So
all good.
Appreciate you coming on.
Just got a few love notes in the mailbox.
Yeah,
but yeah, thank you everybody watching at home too. It was really really nice to have a lively crowd, and to be able to discuss things and just get your questions answered as much as possible. I'm sorry if I missed any comments. I know I missed a ton. I'm sorry if we didn't answer your exact question, but I hope we helped.
All right.
Good.
Bye-bye.
All right.
But thank you guys so much, and we will. I'll try to post this, and we'll see if I can put it on YouTube. But for now, we'll post it to Instagram. So again, thank you guys so much, and I hope we can do this again sometime.
All right. Night, guys.
Night.
Night, guys.